welcome to this week's edition of The Magnate. Today, we shall bring you an Amazon, a woman, well, they will say a woman of timber and caliber. Of course, we know that by the time you meet her, you agree to that assertion. We are still in the euphoria of celebrating International Women's Day, and I have an Amazon. Who are we talking about? Let's bring you this background report that will better capture the profile and story of our magnate for the week. When we come back, it will be an interactive session.
Tokima Bogunja is a business consultant interested in the growth and management of small and medium enterprises on the African continent. As a business consultant, Toki has particular interest in business development, value chain development, project financing, strategic organization, management and the provision of legal and business advisory services to small and medium enterprises. Tokima Bogunja has a degree in law from the University of Ife, Nigeria, a postgraduate law degree in international business law from the University of Exeter, England, executive management training in strategic organization and management from Stanford University Graduate School of Business, California, United States of America. Over the last 36 years, Toki has been involved in commercial and business enterprise from both a public and private sector perspective. As assistant legal advisor to the Ministry of Defense and later senior state counsel in the Mercantile and Industrial Law Department of the Federal Ministry of Justice, Nigeria, Toki was involved in public sector policy formulation, regulation and monitoring of commerce and industry nationwide. Toki provided legal advice to the federal government in its cross-border business negotiations with other governments and commercial enterprise worldwide. Toki moved from the public to the private sector. This provided her the opportunity to attain a well-rounded perspective of business enterprise in Nigerian, African and global business environment. Unique engineer, Mr. Seun Mabogunje, and they have 2 grown sons.
We are reaching you from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Come with me as we go over to the President in Council for an interactive session. It's my pleasure. I'm really delighted to be hosted by the President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Toki Mabogunje. Thank you very much for having us, ma'am.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're looking so radiant, ma'am. Thank you very much for all you have been doing. We observe that you have a passion for nurturing businesses, particularly the young ones, and you've had a very successful legal career, both in the public and private sector. One would expect that you should have a thriving chamber, law chamber that is. So what's the drive? What informed the change, so to say, of career?
Well, you know, funny enough, from when I was young, I always wanted to be in mass communication. I was fascinated by television. I was fascinated by all the personalities I used to see in those days, Julie Coca, Mike and Harun, there was a whole host of them. But I never did get to study mass comm. I went for law. Sometime in my career, while working in broadcasting, being away in the US, representing my company, I had the experience of growing almost from scratch this broadcast entity from position of license to an actual living, breathing and thriving entity. And it struck me then that, you know what, I really want to go back to Nigeria and help other SMEs to be able to grow and reach their full potential. So I came back. Of course, being a lawyer, I first started with the practice of law. And then I realized really at the end of the day that so many of my colleagues from law school who were busy building their law firms while I was in employment had gone very far. And that the goalpost at that point was too far for me to catch up.
In law practice?
In law practice, doing my own thing. So I thought I need to find a niche market for myself. And I thought what I had been doing in employment essentially was growing an SME into a global player. And I just thought, let me start providing this service to SMEs in Nigeria. However, I started in 2000 at a time when SME did not have a definition in Nigeria. At a time when I say to people, I am a business development consultant for SMEs, they say, are you not a lawyer? I thought you were studying. I thought you were a practicing lawyer. I'm like, okay, this is not too different from law. So that's how I started gradually 21 years ago exactly.
Very interesting story, I must say. They really will still benefit from your legal orientation and knowledge. Okay, we are told now that Nigeria is no more in recession and that everything is okay now. What does this portend for medium and small-scale industries?
Well, I think from statistical indices, economic data, that is what it is telling us or telling those who govern us. But the practice and the reality, particularly, I'm going to focus on Lagos now because this is where I was under lockdown. You know, the SMEs here first suffered from COVID and then NSAS. And under NSAS, trillions of naira worth of goods and property were lost. And the biggest losers were the SMEs. I actually had a particular client, a lady who's a rice miller. When they came to her premises in Agege, the mob, she yelled and cried and threw herself at these people. It was onlookers who feared for her life. She said she was physically held down as 20 years of work just disappeared. She said even light sockets, they took everything, electrical cables. It was as if she never existed. So a lot of SMEs have not yet recovered from COVID, and there are those that have not recovered from NSAS. That being said, there are some who also benefited from COVID. So they were able to translate their business. If they were in the food business, they started delivering to homes. If they were tailors, they started making masks and PPE. There were some, but that percentage is quite small. So yes, they are still recovering. We just pray that nothing big happens in the environment, yes, to pull them down.
Interesting. You know, our research revealed that you are the third female to so occupy this seat, the president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I know that you have traversed in different other positions. Do you at any point feel intimidated? I mean, it's a man's world, it's a space for men, male-dominated.
You know, what's very interesting is that being a lawyer, when I entered the law profession, it was seriously male-dominated. And then being a lawyer as well, the kind of work I've done, I spent about 9 years working for federal government in the Federal Ministry of Justice. I don't think anybody can intimidate me anymore, even if they tried, But sincerely speaking, there's no intimidation in council.
Well, while researching on this topic, I also found out that you had served as the vice president, deputy president of the same chamber. How do you think all these leadership positions has prepared you enough for this present position you occupy?
I must say that my rise was very deliberate. So people need to know that they need to be very deliberate. And what do I mean by deliberate? I have an ethos which I think my parents put in me from the beginning, but I've practiced even more as an adult, which means no matter what you do, always put your best forward. Always do your best, no matter what, no matter the challenge. So I got the opportunity to be chairperson of my sectoral group. So, at the grassroots level of chamber, you have different sectoral groups. Mine is the professional practice group, where you find the lawyers, accountants, and so on, real estate surveyors, we're all there. So I got to be chairperson. And while there, did some transformational things and saw how it impacted my group. And ultimately, the council, and ultimately membership. So membership in chamber grew by about 30% through our group. From there, I decided, okay, I needed to do this. So really, I think my story is a story of serious hard work and making such change that can be traced back to you and affecting legacy in such a way that when it came to making the ultimate decision about who should be president, that history went a long way.
Congratulations, Ma. We are still chatting with Mrs. Tokima Bunje, the President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We are still in the euphoria, like we started, celebrating womanhood, International Women's Day. And we actually hosted the immediate past chairman of Access Bank in a webinar. She tagged it Dare to Win. Let's give you excerpts of that webinar. We'll be back to continue this very, very interactive discussion with the president.
In the series of Ames Media webinar, another was staged on Tuesday, the 16th of March 2021, to coincide with the global activities of the International Women's Day celebration. This time, Ames Media partnered with Leapworld Group to host an erudite scholar and Amazon, an economist, banker of repute, with several feathers to her cap, or scarf as it were. Mrs. Mosun Bello Olusoga, popularly called Auntie Mo, was hosted by the two organizations in a webinar that had participants drawn from home and in the diaspora.
Mrs. Mosun Bello Olusoga, popularly known as Auntie Mo, is the lead consultant, chief executive officer of the KRC, Knowledge and Resource Center Limited. Mo holds a BSc degree in economics from the University of Ibadan, graduating with a second-class upper degree, and is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. She began her career as a training accountant with the then Messrs Coppers and Librand Chartered Accountants in 1980. She joined Guaranty Trust Bank PLC as a pioneer staff in 1990, where she gained robust experience, having headed the major core banking groups, including investments. Mo has a record of first: the first female executive director of Guaranty Trust Bank, the first female director of Access Bank, first female director of Premium Pension Limited, first African director, Global Alliance for Women in Banking, first female chairman of Access Bank, and first female pro-councillor and chairman of council, Olabisi Onabanjo University.
The citation of the guests done, Auntie Mo made a PowerPoint presentation in a very colorful slides engine and buttressing on the theme, Dare to Win.
Be ready to face a ride. Your ride will be faced with different things. You will be faced with constant changes. You'll be faced with challenges. You'll be faced with barriers and issues. You'll have different experiences, and your experiences will be both positive and negative. And you'll also meet people along the way. The people you meet will be both good and bad. Once you know that there is change, you will learn to, next slide, you will learn to embrace change and not fear change. Because at times, God moves us from one position to the another. When we're too comfortable in our position, life happens. So learn to embrace change. And I'm also saying that life will present challenges. It's only a dead person that doesn't have challenges. Once you have challenges, it is a sign that you are still alive. Challenges make you more responsible. And always remember that life without struggle is a life without success. If you don't dare, you don't win. Life will introduce you to different people. And please understand that people are different. And we have to be respectful of people's opinions. I may not be agreeable to what you're saying, or I might not agree with what you're saying, but I have to learn to respectfully say, oh, I don't agree. These are my own viewpoints. The Chinese word, crisis, means two things. It means danger and opportunity. So life will always show you two sides to the same coin. So you have crisis. So yes, it can be danger, but in that danger, in that challenge, there will always be opportunities. Your attitude determines your altitude. But you have to have, that they know that if they come to Auntie Mo, she will not do this. Oh, if you go to her, she will do this. So people have to know you for who you are. And I'm saying, for your purpose, define you. Who are you? You have to define you. When you don't define you, other people will define you, and you might not like how they define you. And I'm very, very passionate about being authentic. I don't want to be a copy. I want to be an original. I might admire people, but I don't want to be them because I don't know their life story. I don't know what they're going through. So be authentic. Be your authentic self. I joke that there's only one Auntie Mo. Any other Auntie Mo is a counterfeit.
She said women are increasingly relevant to the business as markets. Operations and supply chains continue to expand in the developing world. In this environment, where gender inequity impacts business and society in the myriad ways, women's economic empowerment holds significant relevance for sustainable businesses. The well-articulated presentation elicited some comments from participants, which were duly responded to by the Amazon of our time. It also afforded several of the participants the opportunity to seek clarifications on the paper she presented and other business-related issues.
There's a false narrative that a woman cannot have it all. How can we fight against that without robbing people off wrongly?
Be very, very careful about the choice of your spouse. Marry the person that you are friends with. Marry somebody who will support you through thick or thin.
What advice do you have for men to support their women?
When you raise your daughters as well as you raise your men, you have more empathy.
From my experience, I want to encourage everyone who has gotten daughters to invest heavily in them. People do discriminate against women, daughters, when it comes to education, when it comes to some other things to make them to be complete people or persons. I want to encourage us to make sure that we don't discriminate. Invest heavily in them, just like you will invest in the boys.
On behalf of Ames Media Company Limited and Leapword Group, we appreciate the participants and our guest speaker, Mrs. Mosun Bello Olushoga, for honoring us on the webinar series tagged Rising Against All Odds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for rejoining us on the Magnate. Thank you for those tips, and thanks to Auntie Mo for the panacea she has provided for us to always rise against all odds. Now, your management consultancy. Our research revealed that a lot of people have been giving testimony on me. What drives you really for having a knack of nurturing the young businesses?
I think what drives me is the satisfaction of seeing other people succeed. I must say that I think I'm lucky. I think I've finally found my purpose in life, and that is helping others to achieve their full potential. We actually have it as a vision at my company, TMC. So at Tokima Bogunja & Co., so like I said, we've been here 21 years. So we have actually had the privilege of seeing companies rise, seeing them become huge, larger than themselves, seeing them make progress. It is that seeing the progress, seeing the impact, looking at what happens to these young people as they grow and mature, and being able to say, you know, I was part of that story.
Success story.
Part of this success story. I helped to make that happen. But I think ultimately my goal is that I'm truly, truly, truly a patriotic Nigerian. I love my country. And even more than that, I love the people. Nigerians are so entrepreneurial. Honestly, the kinds of things that are going on.
Creative.
They are so creative, innovative, solution seekers. You know, there's never a gap in this environment. So being a part of that ethos, a part of that ecosystem, it is so satisfying.
Okay, now, the chamber is well known for lectures, advocacy. Since the pandemic, how have you leveraged on technology to ensure that there hasn't been gap, particularly among your members?
All right, so that's an interesting story because it makes me look back to my deputy presidency, when at that time, without any knowledge that COVID was coming, the issue was we have entered the 21st century, right? This is the time for the Industrial Revolution of, you know, technology, artificial intelligence, all those things. Where are we in this matter? So we took it upon ourselves, and council approved two things. One, the installation of what they call the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Software, that allows you to digitize all your processes. The second was the ISO certification, to make sure that everything is at international and global standards. And by my first term of presidency, we got that ISO. So I'm happy to announce that Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the first chamber in West Africa to get that certification, and the second on the continent of Africa after Ethiopia. So we've been doing quite a good job there. So what then happened was when the first lockdown came at the end of March here in Lagos, while others were still pondering, what do we do? How do we do it? I don't think it took us a month to go virtual, totally virtual. So these were the things that enabled. So comes to preparation, so that when preparation meets opportunity, the next thing is success. So that was how we were able to translate to virtual. So we took everything virtual, including our trade fairs. So our ICTEL was held virtually for the first time last year, month of September. Our trade fair, the popular one, Lagos International Trade, was hybrid in December.
Interesting point with the chamber that I have also observed is that you're able to carry everybody along. You insinuated it earlier. You alluded to the fact that different sectoral, there are grades, you know, taking care of the small, medium, you know, all that, what's now people watching, because they will think, oh, Lagos Chamber of Commerce is VI. I'm not qualified to be a member. Tell them, what do they stand to gain, irrespective of your cadre, your status, to enlist as a member of Chamber of Commerce and Industry?
So I think the first thing I have to say is that Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry was born in 1888. So we're 133 years old. Wow. Being that old, most sectors of the economy are represented within the chamber. And chambers of commerce are broad-based. They are not sector-specific. So they cover everything. We cover everything from oil and gas to agriculture, SME, women's group. You can find most groups here. The biggest thing also is that we're part of a global movement. So there are chambers of commerce all across the world. It doesn't matter where you go. Now, as a business person, you then have the advantage of approaching the Chamber of Commerce in the country that you're going to, in the city, in the town that you're going to, and get help and facilitation from there. These chambers, we all give you information, we facilitate, we get in touch with our colleagues over there and help you, for those of you in global trade. For those of you in domestic trade, all the chambers of commerce in Nigeria are all linked to each other. You want to go and do business in Kano, Kano has Chamber of Commerce. You want to go to Port Harcourt, you want to go to Ijebu-Ode, Ijebu-Ode has Chamber of Commerce. So the towns and cities also have chambers, and we all try to collaborate with one another. So 5 big things. 1, the networking is fantastic. People you won't come across normally in your daily business, you'll meet them in the chamber. 2, opportunity to enter markets, all sorts of trade fairs. So we have our own trade fairs. We attend other people's trade fairs. We go abroad. And it's cheaper than going yourself, because you're going as a group. Everything is much cheaper. And then you're directed. So ahead, we would have gotten information on who you want to meet, how you want to meet, so that once you get there, you get your business done. 3rd is advocacy. The environment is difficult, so Nigeria is difficult. So there are some things we have to talk to government about. Not fight and go on the streets, discuss. So that discussion is carried on by Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And even though we are Lagos City Chamber, because we are real great-grandfather in this matter, we are nationally relevant.
Mentors to others.
So we talk to national government, we talk to state governments, we talk to local governments. Then education. We have very, very well subsidized courses. Whether you're a large company, you're medium, you're small, we cover everyone.
You came on board barely about a year or so ago, and that is when we had this pandemic. As much as you have the resilience, I mean, you have prepared for this job. Can you share some of the challenges?
First of all, I think my mindset, very nicely groomed by my father and my mother, is a mindset of, my mother had a saying. She used to sing it to us all the time. You know, you say your mother sings when she keeps talking about something. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. For every challenge, there's an opportunity. So yes, the challenges were myriad. The biggest one, COVID-19. You know, when you have a situation where all your members, that is all the companies, are suffering from the same disease, and the name of the disease is called COVID-19. And it is a disease to which nobody had a solution. Even government was knocking its head against the wall, but looking for a solution. And you sit there looking helpless as companies and businesses are folding up. And what can you do to help? So one of the things I did was I thought, if you keep the members busy, they will spend less time on their problems. And that birthed the myriad of webinars, lectures, training, anything to help them deal with what is happening with their staff. Because as the company is suffering, staff are suffering.
Oh, yes.
That really was my biggest challenge. But guess what? Every dark cloud has a silver lining. It was in our darkest moments in this country that I achieved ISO certification, that we achieved 100% digital transformation. The second thing that I feel I grappled with was the what we call government relations. Okay, so before COVID ever came, there's a challenge around government relations. How do you get the ear of government? How do you advocate for your members? How do you try and get results, at least enough results for people to feel that you're actually doing the work and so on. So COVID appeared initially to be a super challenge because government was more focused on health, because how do we save the people who are sick? The economy, how do we give palliatives? How do we help? That's where their focus was. So they were not really available for any other type of discussion. However, several months down the line, with everybody going virtual, including government, it was easier, I must say, it was easier to get hold of a government official than it used to be.
Thank you very much for having stayed with us on this program so far. We'll be back, definitely. Yes, that has been the Magnate today. I'm sure you have taken one or two tips, if not a lot, from our conversation with Mrs. Toki Mabumije, the President of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'll be back next week. Do make it a date with us. Let's just give you a pause for now. We'll continue with the conversation. Join us there. Bye for now.